and the trends and the changes around what's happened over the last few years. So Dave, kick us off. Introduce yourself.
Introduce myself. Okay, so hi everyone. Online. I'm Dave McCormack. I run the creative and bid services department of Hobs, and I've been working in the bid industry for 28 years, right from the dark old days of PFI. And actually, we've been working with clients from, the old days where we used to just print submissions, right through now where we're looking at how we do the writing, reviewing, graphic design, capture, 3D models, prints, the whole encompassing part of it. So we work with our clients to help them raise their submissions, and also plug gaps. So, especially this day and age where people are doing a lot more submissions post-COVID, and also the government, everybody's throwing out work left, right and centre. Bid teams have been shrunk, and it's about resourcing that and making sure that companies have got the right capacity, the right people, the right time to actually deliver what their businesses actually need to keep going forward.
So you help them out, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
Good work, Dave. I'll roll with that. So you don't, and the reason that I really kind of wanted to interview Dave was because he's always kind of behind the camera. Yes. And he's always the one sending out, doing all the donkey work. Can I say that? Doing all the donkey work, and he hates being in the spotlight. So wanted to get him on here to interview him and to kind of talk through what he's noticed. Because Dave, you don't just work with one sector, do you? You work in multiple sectors, multiple different size clients, and you have kind of like a vast remit of clients, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting journey that the company's been on over the last 20 years, where historically Hobs will sit in the AEC sector, but given what we're doing, we will cross parallels into multiple sectors. We do fit out, we do construction, we do IT, legal. So we work with a number of teams across a number of different industries, and it's interesting to see how they all do things the same but different, and how we can actually bring the strengths of everybody into their own sector.
Okay, so you mentioned that over the years things have changed and that they've kind of diversified. What are the big changes that you've seen over, let's say, because COVID hit us all, hasn't it? It's changed the way that we all work and the way that we do things and approach things. What's changed, and what's been the massive change that you've recognised over the last 3 years?
I think it goes a bit far back than that. And I think, some of us who've been in the industry for a while, I think the first real big change was probably 2008, when we had the banking crisis. And we've seen that's the first sort of big change, because what happened then was pre sort of 2008, a lot of submissions were done in Word, very boring on the web phrase. And what happened then was a lot of especially construction, a lot of the tier 2 guys started trying to step up a little bit and start bringing graphic design into it. How things look. We saw a very empathetic view on the words that are being used. So there's always this culture shift around sort of that period where bids started to come a lot more, I think friendly's a word we could use, but we started to become more impactful. Going on from that, we then saw the next sort of massive change in the industry was portals. We went from Hobs printing 20 copies off a document to give to a client, and I remember days where we would do Kent Schools being prime example, where we had a truck to deliver the bid, to literally overnight a lot of that going portal driven. So there was anything required, and we had to adapt to the company. The industry had to adapt, because you were suddenly, in essence, taken to extreme, bidding by Twitter. You were given 500 characters to get in your value proposition, and everyone's going, I can't do this, it's ridiculous. But then obviously COVID, and COVID's had a huge impact on the industry. We've seen big teams get pulled quite dramatically. And now you're in a position where, especially like last year, you were starting to see writers become designers, writers become managers, and everybody started to pick up other aspects of the bid purely because their team was bigger, and it had to be done. And now we're seeing, we've come out of this a little bit now, where we're sort of seeing, the government and private sector really throwing bids out the left, right, centre, and teams going, we haven't got the bandwidth to do this. And especially, there seems to be a bit of a dearth at the moment of, people. There's a lot more roles out there than there was people. So you've gone through this almost evolution of change, where we went sort of very bland, very, it's effectively over to portals, and now we want this next journey. So it's going to be interesting, I think personally, over the next sort of 12, 18 months, to see actually what impact that's going to be. How are people going to start communicating? And it is about, I always say a bid is actually, in essence, a sales document. It's a pitch. It's you saying to why should we use you? So it's actually, how do we communicate that message? How do we get that message out there? What's the language we're using? What's the, how we describing ourselves? Because also one thing you've got to look at is people we're bidding to, they've changed. It isn't, as it was back in the 90s where it was engineers doing it. Now anybody can be marking submissions. We don't know the people behind the screens. So actually we have to be more empathetic to what they're trying to do, and actually make it a lot easier for people to understand and mark. In essence,
how do you do that though, Dave? On a portal, like say it's a portal, and I have clients that used to come to me. It's a portal. They're very rigid. They're stiff. Most of the time, you can't get your brand across. You can't get your message across, or anything like that. How do you even manage to approach that in a team that's absolutely stacked to get your brand and their awareness of you as a client and who you are as an individual as well as a big team? How do you do that on a portal?
I think
and how would you approach it?
I think it's been an evolution with the support technology, because if you go back to when it first came out, it was very much, it's effectively an Excel spreadsheet online, we type it in, there's no room for anything. I think a lot more clients these days have been a bit more forgiving and allowing you to put attachments in there and almost sort of supplementary documentation. And actually, one thing that a lot of companies don't do is ring the client and say to them, can I put an attachment in there as an answer? Because I think one of the biggest things I've seen with submissions and we look at ITTs, nobody ever changes ITT. When we go, I'm pretty sure that you'll be able to sort of be a case of where you've looked at an ITT and it's got, please do this in single page, double space lining, 12-point area to facilitate photocopy, which nobody's done for 20 years. So I think the biggest problem with ITT is that a lot of time it's copy and pasted from the last one they've done. But actually, if you go to the client and go, can we do this? They will let you to do that. And we've seen examples of that with our clients where they say, well, we want to do something different. And so we've got to do a portal. So we'll ask them to send a link to a Microsoft.
And what are the complications for the client then? The worst case scenario, the client says no, and where you started anyway.
Yeah, I mean, asking a question, you don't lose anything. If you don't ask a question, sometimes you can lose. So I think the key takeaway I take with that is ask the client if you can do something different. Ask the client if you can send them a microsite. And when we've done this in the past with clients, they've all said yes. Because one thing they want is the best value that you can give them. And actually, if you can give them something that demonstrates how forward thinking you are, how you can demonstrate value, I think actually sometimes they'll actually buy into that. It's not the old adage, you don't get.
But Dave, so take it back. I know what a microsite is. Does anyone else know what a microsite is? Okay, so we've got a couple of nods.
Yeah.
But for the people online, do you want to just give a quick run through?
It's effectively a website that's a cut down website. Effectively. So we're all used to websites. We're all used to the way that and this age it's a lot about communication. So people are used to working online, And actually, it's just another method of doing that. It is in essence a cut down website. You know, we take the cookies off, take the tracking of it, so you can't be accused of any sort of updates and stuff like this. But it's the real big benefit of it. It's mobile.
So would that be a benefit to your clients? So if you were a construction company or you were a financial company, the fact that they can access that on their tube home or on a bus or wherever they are, they can access it. And I guess for MDs, CEOs that are abroad, overseas, that are unable to attend that meeting, they've got access to that as well.
I mean, totally. I mean, if you in London was always a prime example where the amount of times I used to get a train home, you know, actually a bit later than normal, sort of 8:30, 9 o'clock, and you'd see somebody on the tube reading a document that being from the industry, you know, was actually some sort of proposal or something, just by the look of it. That's great, but actually giving somebody access to your submission anywhere they want to be, and they can look at it on the mobile phone. It's powerful. It's because we deal in communication. That's what we do for a living. We are communicating ideas. We need to embrace the technology that's out there and actually use that to our advantage, and give people the mechanisms and the tools to actually look at it wherever they are. And we do it in our daily lives. I guarantee now, everyone on the call and everyone's here. When they started walking down the road, first thing you did was look at your mobile phone and look at an email, or go on a website and look at something. BBC News, whatever it's going to be, because we love to be updated. As a species, we crave knowledge.
But the way you communicate has got to, and I guess from a bid perspective, it's about brand perception, and it's hit or miss, isn't it? Because we've heard stories from end clients that have said that bids have come in and they've looked shoddy, there's been spelling errors, the age old of they've copied and pasted from a previous bid, and then they've got Pepsi in the title instead of Coca-Cola, or whatever the situation is. What's your take on that? Is copy and paste a bad thing necessarily when it comes to bids, or do you have to do it because it's kind of part of the good fight?
I think that. I'm going to
lure you in here.
I think copy and paste as a standard is a no. However, I think you have boilerplate copy, as every good professional say. You have a library that you go to. But if you're going to have a library of stuff, the one thing I always recommend, and what we do, is take the client's name out of it. Spend that little bit of time to almost go through the text. So when we're bidding for work we do, we have a library. The first thing we do is go through the bid once we've submitted it, and literally go through, put asterisks, insert client name, make it really easy. There's tools out there that can help you do this. But yeah, I think you have a standard library, but I also think that you need to review the text you've got in that. You need to make sure the copy you've got in that is appropriate for what you're trying to do. So yes, I call it giving people a starting point. Have a starting point of where you're coming from.
So if you were a young bid team, I know we've got a lot of people online. If you were a young bid team, or potentially you lost your bid team during COVID, which a lot of bid teams have had to rebuild, restart, that would be your go-to. And I know we've got established bid people here, but there's people out there, we get messages anyway that say, well, where is the starting point? How do you get going again?
The starting point is have a library of basic stuff, and then have a library that your team can work with. But like any library you have, it's never finished. It's never you never sit at the library and go, right, that bit's done now. You need to be revising your content. Things change. COVID's a prime example of that. The more how we approach stuff and how we did your approach to building a building, where it's going to be, how that was written 2 years ago, is totally different to what it is now. So you need to always review the current trends, the current marketplace. and actually invest in that part of the business, because actually you can save a lot of time further down the line if you've got a good starting point. But going back to right at the start of this, as a copy and paste thing, to me that's a no. I think it's too dangerous. I think have a good starting point as a document that you can work on that actually is refined to that particular requirement.
So tailor make from everything. Biddings is important, and it is for a lot of businesses. Yeah. Let's face it, bid team don't bid work, people don't get the jobs, people don't get to put the lights on or anything like that. So I think it is really, really important. And I think we've seen where bids have changed in the 7-8 years that I've been at Hobs. Yes. I remember the big, we've got one that my tripod's on, a big dirty bid box full of prints, and we used to hear clients that would be absolutely devastated that the hard work and it's just been ripped out, because you've got Mr. Commercial that wants the commercial details, you've got the pre-con director that just cares about how are they going to build it, and then you've got the owner that legit just cares about that bottom line and how much money he's going to be paying out, and then how much money he's going to get back on that investment. We've now gone super digital.
Yeah.
But where's it going to go now?
Huh.
Is it going to come back to print because people are craving to see people in real life? People are craving that human contact, because presentations are still going on, aren't they? When you have a client and you submit them, and then you send your creme de la creme to go and woo the client, as Dave said earlier, wooing the client. That still goes on. So where's the end game, and what are you seeing from clients? Because I know you speak to people that even, we have Tom who marks bids for clients, and he lets us into some information and kind of hints and tips. Where is it going to go?
I think, in regards to, is it going to be a print submission, or is it going to be a digital? I think digital's here to stay. It's not going to go anywhere. But there's two parts to that. I think when you're going to interview, I think it's nice to leave something behind. Because the whole point of what you're ever trying to do is get the client to remember you. And, this goes back to when, 15, 20 years ago, when we first, started doing bids for clients. My go-to thing, my win from a print background, as I was there, was I wanted the end client, to pick up my client's bid first. Because as humans, generally we will sit there and we like nice shiny things. We like things that look pretty. So actually, to get our submission picked up first and read first and be the benchmark is sometimes quite a good place to be. The flip side to that is, you want to be last. They always, read and remember your, the last time they look at it. But I think there's, it's a time and a place. I think that's the one thing we've got to try and nail. It's where do we use print, where do we use digital media, where do we use websites, where do we use 3D models, where do we use, because there's so many tools we've got, so many mediums we've got. And I think that's the big thing now, is it's picking the right medium with the right opportunity at the right time. I think that is the challenge. What's going to come next? There was on Twitter a few months back where we said, are we going to start doing bids by Snapchat? You just don't know. I mean, that was an extreme, but it is actually, what is next is always the way that we're looking at things. But you are still got this underlying factor across all the mediums and everything we do in the world is the fact that we're trying to sell somebody a dream. I think it's a good way of putting it. And we're trying to make them understand how we can do that so much better than anybody else. And that is where it really, even down to the people who come to interviews, the people, how you present yourself, how you talk about in the presentation, that even now is becoming really important. Because it's what do they remember and what do they see as you as a company. So I mean, I think we're in for an interesting time. I think the current phase we're going through now, where there's loads of submissions out there, the government throwing bids up left, right, and centre, that's going to continue, in my view, simply because they need to reboot the economy. And it's the best way of doing it is to build stuff. So I think it's going to be, I think we'll be current trend one way. If I was going to put a time on it, I'd say about 18 months, 2 years. But we're in a position now, it's great having that, but if we haven't got the people to do it, it's a challenge.
Because there's a huge skills gap.
It's when I talked to Wendy before, it was like, trying to recruit people at the moment is a nightmare. Trying to keep people is also quite tricky. And it does seem that at the moment there's so many roles out of people. And what that's doing is driving bid costs up. Everybody's got a budget to work to. Every company's got an amount of money they can afford to put into that pot. And it's actually what is the best way of building a team, structuring a team, do you use internal, external resources to actually
But do you think it's homegrown talent? And we've got an example with ISG. ISG are now getting apprentices, graduates, and they're going to have their own homegrown talent that in 10 years they're going to be forced to be replicated because there is a huge skills gap. And to get someone in their 30s, 40s, 50s comes with a huge price tag, doesn't it? It comes with a massive price tag. And if you can teach someone that is fresh out of university, super eager, willing to learn, wants to be there, and dare I say it, and don't hate me big tips, but have no habits they haven't been tarnished by anything, can hurt by, and Amber bounces when she goes to work. She's absolutely loving going to work and she's excited for Monday morning. It's like, you can't buy that, even with a massive salary, but it's about having that,
I think
freshness, isn't it? I guess
it is. And if you look at the industry now, I mean, I think there's more people coming into it now than there's ever been.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go back 10 years, it was the same face that you saw appear from clients. I think now it's, we've seen that with the APMP apprentice program. So we've adopted that to Wembley. And it's about encouraging more young people into the industry. And I think it's every client's and every company's responsibility to try and drag people in and actually have people coming out of school that want to work in the bid industry, that want that career. Because when we recruited Wembley, she didn't know the bid industry actually existed. And I think it's we need to bring new talent. There's no two ways about that. But it's how do we do that as an industry and drive that forward.
But graduates and apprentices,
I think
apprenticeships are fantastic.
It is, and I think the APMP, they're doing a sterling job with the apprenticeship program they've got. And I'd encourage every company to look at it. We've all got the section, the apprentices levy fund that every company has to pay into. Use it. I really advocate people use that to bring apprentices into their companies, because it's the only way we're going to grow as an industry. It's the only way we're going to get more people in there and actually build. Because if you look at the bid industry, it's still quite an embryonic group in industry effectively. It's only 20, 30 years old. That's we look at graphic design, has been around for 60 plus. It's it's still quite an embryonic, and it's still learning what it needs to do. And I think we need to really push that, drive it, and get young talent into the industry. Nurture them, grow them, and that's just going to breed the new technology that they're bringing with them into us producing better output and higher quality submissions.
I love that. I think, do you know what? I think you've got to keep moving with the times. The only way to do that is to bring on new people, fresh blood. And I love the way that you call the bid industry, but it's like a cult, isn't it? Because people don't leave. It's like you guys have this secret handshake thing going on, and no one really knows about it until you're in a bid launch, and it's amazing. And then it all comes together when 25 people have had an input on it. Bizarre. But we always get the job done. Say thank you, Dave, before he starts talking. Oh God, you can tell I've had a glass of wine. So, Dave, thank you, because I know that you always hear he hates every second of me talking to him, especially being on camera. But thank you for kind of running us through what you think, where we've been, and hopefully where we're headed when it comes to a bid industry. And Dave is, all of his details are on our Use These Better group on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
So you can message Dave if you've got any questions or you have anything to ask him. You can message him, but we do a live Q&A. We do sometimes when we get questions. Emily, have we got any questions?
Yeah, we've got a
online?
question in the chat. So we've got a question from Vikash who asks, any suggestions / best practices to follow for improving the win rate in government bids?
No question. Yeah. I'm probably not massively qualified to answer that. The only thing I would ever say with when you're putting a response into client is be clear.
And answer the question.
Answer the question that they've asked you. I mean, it's the oldest adage in bids. It's answer the question they've asked you, not the question you think they want the answer to. I would always say be clear. Don't use acronyms, or if you're going to use, explain what it is. Use graphics. Graphics are a great way of explaining complex process. And a good graphic can actually make your life so much easier. But as I was saying to Wendy earlier, I'm a great fan of captions. I think you should always, if you're going to put a graphic or an image in a submission, tell me something about it, but don't horse trade. It's the greatest thing. If it looks like a horse, smells like a horse, and eats like a horse, it's probably a horse. You don't need to tell me that. So give me, get a USP into that caption. Generally, and I'll probably get corrected by half the audience, but when you put captions on images, they're generally not marked, and it's an extra line or 2 lines of text. You can get a point off. You can hammer home a USP. You can hammer home
so make sure any graphics that you include in, they're precise, they're to the point, and they're clear.
Yeah, I'd say so.
And get the question answered.
And get the question answered. Yeah, and they're the sort of that's one thing I always strongly believe in.
Emily, I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, we've not had any to chat with.
Good work, Dave. Any others?
We've not got any yet. But Cash says yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Fab. So I'm going to wrap it up because I'm conscious of time. We have got our next. Just been dropped into this on the 24th of May. We're actually joined by a really, really dear friend of mine, a chap called James Archer, who's the CEO of a charity and business called Are You OK, Mate, who deal with positive mental health within the workplace, specifically men in construction. And he's also dealing with some of the top football teams in the country. Don't get upset, Dave, it's not Reading FC. So we've got that. So thank you to everyone that's joined us. These are going to be recorded. They're going to be added onto the YouTube channel. So thank you so much for joining us, and I hope we'll see you again soon.